For a video game's final act to leave a lasting impression on its players, there has to be a lot more going for it than the actual final boss itself. The build-up is crucial for creating tension, the aftermath of the fight has to feel rewarding, the very setting has to stand out, you get the idea. For this video, I wanted to talk about one that personally resonated with me, that I think deserves a lot more credit. Hey, how's it going everybody? I hope you're all good. My name is Peter Gargan, and today, I'd like to talk about what I like so much about the final act of Super Mario Odyssey. To give some background, Odyssey isn't exactly my favourite 3D Mario game, I'm torn between Sunshine and Galaxy for that moniker, but it probably has one of my favourite final acts in all of gaming. Let's get into why I think that is. Firstly, the build-up itself has made me really excited going in. Throughout the story, Bowser has been stealing treasures from across the various kingdoms to make his forced wedding with Peach one to remember, and Mario has been in hot pursuit to put a stop to his madness. Already, the stakes are pretty high, and I'd argue that Odyssey has been one of the few attempts to give Bowser's kidnapping of Peach an actual motive. Sure, in the original Super Mario Bros. On the NES, his reasons were related to Peach being the only one who possessed the ability to turn the Toads back to their original form after being transformed into weeds and blocks, but as the years went on, this detail was pretty much forgotten about in the Mario series ever since, and before Odyssey came along, it just seemed as if Bowser would simply kidnap Peach for the fun of it, and leaving his motives up to the player's imagination, which is also totally fine, but presenting us with this forced wedding scenario made me actually care more about saving Peach from his clutches this time round, as we have a better idea of what the consequences would be compared to if he had a more ambiguous motive. So that's something that I think Odyssey as a whole got right, and it creates a more exciting build-up leading up to the final confrontation. In most Mario finales, it is typically expected that we navigate the lava-filled obstacles in Bowser's castle before confronting the King of Koopas in his throne room, and since the 3D games typically subvert this with a different setting, naturally Odyssey has to find a way of doing the same thing. And if you've played through the game, you will notice the not so subtle foreshadowing that you probably figured out that you would be visiting the moon at some point. After all, there has been plenty of lunar-themed imagery throughout. The main collectible is the Power Moon as opposed to the series standard Power Star. There's that one line in Jump Up Superstar that says you can zoom all the way to the moon. The Broodals themselves being rabbits, which was inspired by the connections that rabbits have with the moon in Japanese folklore. Heck, just read the TV trope segment of it and you'll get the point. Anyway, once you set foot on the moon, you'll notice that the gravity is naturally floatier like it would be in real life, which was a nice detail to throw in for some extra platforming variety. Additionally, it comes with an ambient soundtrack that is almost soothing, allowing the player to take in the atmosphere and reflect on how far they've come since embarking on this journey. It has a calm before the storm kind of energy to it if you ask me. After navigating the moon, you'll eventually find yourself falling down a hole into the lava-filled moon caverns. What, you thought we weren't going to have a lava-themed area? Well, Odyssey fools us a second time round and decides that yes, we'll carry on the series tradition and still somehow make it work. I love how they use the context of being closer to the moon's core as the explanation of there being a level theme that greatly contrasts the tranquility of the surface while also staying true to what is a Mario series tradition. The music has a level of intensity that puts a massive grin on my face, as it motivated me during what will be the last obstacle before the epic showdown. A red carpet leading up to the cathedral serves as a nice invitation for Mario to make a grand entrance. While gate crashing a wedding can be considered a narrative cliche in many stories, there's a reason it gets done a lot. I mean, I've lost count of how many times I've seen the original Shrek movie, but I always get chills at the part when he busts through the door, because that's when you know shit is about to go down. And Mario can rightfully join the club for making a dramatic entrance, hopefully in the wedding tuxedo costume provided to you beforehand, as it just makes too much narrative sense. It almost feels dirty to be wearing any other costume to match the occasion, at least for whenever I replay this section of the game, but admittedly, there are some humorous dialogue options that come up when you do wear something else. Anywho, you walk in on Bowser trying to force the ring on Peach, and you notice that many of the inhabitants from the other kingdoms have attended. I'm not sure whether they came by choice or if Bowser also kidnapped them, but their inclusion here is more than welcome in my eyes, as it gathers the people you've helped throughout the game, and now here they are rooting for your success in defeating Bowser and putting a stop to this madness. You can even stop to hear what each of them have to say and their reactions to what is going on, adding that extra level of personality that is rare in the other games, seeing as you're typically confronting Bowser without much of an audience egging you on, so it's a nice change of pace. Time to confront Bowser. Obviously we have the obligatory monologue of how this time Bowser really will come out on top. He really means it this time, guys. Really means it. Joking aside, he pulls a PT Piranha with the ground crumbling beneath him and Mario, sending the longtime rivals back into the moon's core, setting the scene for the epic showdown. And, to be completely honest, This is probably the weakest part of the whole final act. Don't get me wrong, it's not actually bad. It's just that Odyssey follows that 3D Mario curse of having the same method of fighting Bowser that 64 and both Galaxies are also guilty of, so some things don't change. With that being said, I still remember being so unnecessarily immersed with the motion controls at the time, like I was when I first played Galaxy as a kid, treating the Joy-Cons as if they were actual boxing gloves, and the impact of sending Bowser flying into the wall always feels satisfying. All that Wii Sports boxing from back in the day really paid off. After that's over, the inside of the moon is about to collapse, leading into an escape sequence that heavily reminds me of the Metroid series knack for these types of moments. But you obviously can't just escape in Mario standard form, that's boring. Especially when the game has made such a big deal of the capture mechanic. And oh look who's readily available to be captured, the unconscious King of Koopas himself. I'm sure before we all got to this point, we were hopeful that Bowser could be controlled as soon as we were made aware of Mario's new ability to control whoever he would throw Cappy at, and I'd certainly hate to be a part of reality where this wasn't the case, as that would just be underwhelming. So it's good that the game followed through with this, as it makes too much sense to end the game off with an opportunity like this. The last time we had this much control over Bowser outside of the Mario Kart series or sports spin-offs would have been in Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, which was an RPG, so having him playable in a main series platformer was something that was surprisingly new and refreshing. I also greatly appreciate the attention to detail of going full circle with the cutscene at the start, where much like seeing the frog's life events and memories passing by, we see some of the previous Bowser battles from across the series as part of his memories. Just thought it was worth pointing out as it's a cute nod to the past. Also, on a completely random and irrelevant note, the frog's placement behind the cathedral was most definitely an intentional choice for the sake of cyclical structure. You can't convince me otherwise. Moving on, it definitely feels satisfying to break through the blocks and race to the end in a tense scenario like this, but the adrenaline goes through the roof when the song titled Break Free, Lead the Way kicks in to cement Odyssey as having one of the greatest finales in Mario history. I consider it the Mario series equivalent of Live and Learn from Sonic Adventure 2, being a high-energy banger that creates a feeling of excitement during the final stretch of gameplay, as you desperately try to fix the electrical line to get the heck out. For the record, I strongly prefer Break Free over Jump Up Superstar, despite it also being guilty of having cheesy self-referential lyrics, but I wouldn't have it any other way at this point. And the greatness still doesn't end there. Now that Mario and Bowser have escaped, a final cutscene plays in which the two rivals compete for Peach's affection. Normally, Mario gets a little kiss on the cheek from Peach as his reward for embarking on a perilous quest to save her, but in a hilarious twist of fate, he also gets rejected. Peach, growing tired of the pair showing flowers in her face in a desperate attempt to win her affection, decides that enough is enough and turns down both proposals, calmly walking back to the Odyssey. The first time I saw this, I honestly laughed so hard at Mario and Bowser's shocked expressions as they watched her walk by, and I laughed even harder when you see the two sworn enemies straight up comforting each other in the next shot as they wallow in their rejection. I'm pretty sure I find this way funnier than it actually is, but seeing this kind of dynamic between the three characters is kind of rare in a main series title. Just as it's about to look as if Peach is going to ditch the two and leave them stranded on the moon, Mario and Bowser do one final run to catch up. Bowser doesn't quite make the jump, but Mario uses him as a stepping stool to reach the Odyssey and get back safely, sending the Koopa King back to the moon's surface, supposedly leaving him stranded there. Poor Bowser. Finally, Mario throws Cappy towards the camera and the game cuts to the credits, ending off what I find to be a truly remarkable finale that sits along the likes of Kingdom Hearts 2 and Pokemon Black and White as some of my personal favourite ending sequences of this magnitude. Might have to make separate videos addressing those games' final acts too someday, we'll have to see. To sum it up, Super Mario Odyssey does a great job of subverting our expectations of how we imagine a Mario finale to play out, throwing in a series tradition that still works on a thematic level and giving us high stakes to care more about accomplishing Mario's goal. Throw in an adrenaline-pumping escape sequence with a catchy song and an ending sequence that oozes personality and humour, and we have the recipe for what I think is an excellent way to end off a great game that has potentially kicked off a resurgence in not just 3D Mario, but 3D platformers as a whole. Do you agree with any of my sentiments, or do you reckon I'm reading too much into a piece of digital entertainment? Let me know what you think. Anyway, that just about does it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to my channel for more content on the world of Nintendo. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, see you later.